This call is from a person currently in a prison in England. All calls are logged and recorded and may be listened to by a member of prison staff. If you do not wish to accept this call, please hang up now.
Day 14, HMP Thameside, IDTS Wing. To this day, by the way, I don't know what IDTS stands for. I would guess induction, detox, terribly shit. Okay, so though I was tired, I was, as usual, waking up through the night. The reason this time was that at some point before sunrise, a screw was going to get me out of bed, into a paddy wagon, and into the dungeon below the Old Bailey High Court. This is because I had a court appeals. Can't be much longer, I thought, turning on the telly to check the time. 4:30 a.m. I drifted off again and again and again. Eventually, my breakfast pack hit the deck. I got a shower and ready sometime after that. My pad door opened for social. I was puzzled, thinking maybe they forgot about me and just not got me for court. This is because when you go into court in prison, you get you around 6 a.m, 6:30 a.m, the latest. I went to the office and asked, "Boss, can you check me itinerary, please?" Apparently, I had a VC, video call for court in a couple of hours. Fuck yes. Does that mean I'm going to stay here in this prison? The officer said, "Maybe I wouldn't get your hopes up. This is actually the soundest screw on the prison. They're down to earth and the most respected. They will always help where they can within reason." In my mind, at this point, there is no reason to remove or move us from this prison because we're already in custody here and we could just do things by video link. I went upstairs to share the news with Ahmed. "Yo, we've got video links. We're not going to Belmarsh by the looks of things," I said through the cell door's observation hatch. Ahmed was always one of the last prisoners let out of their cell, just by the route the screws took. Sometimes let out 10 to 15 minutes later than me. Yeah, I'd often just stand outside the cell just talking to him until he came out on social. On this day, when he got out, he checked the system to confirm that they also had a video link, but we both did. I decided to celebrate with a cup of tea, thanks to somebody else in the wing. Obviously, I'd never had a kettle myself. However, I think the sugar in it hit a nerve in my tooth that eventually grew into a headache. I left the wing the usual way with a few others to go to the video conference building that I was at a few days before. This was to speak to my solicitor. I went past the metal detector, handing my prisoner card in and awaiting in a room with other prisoners. There was just this office. You just basically give them your card, you give them your vape, and you just sit in this room with other prisoners. And then outside of this, there's a long corridor with different rooms in, and they're all just video conference rooms with a telly and a camera and 2 chairs and a table. You would always share stories with the prisoners in this room, and people would share why they're in there. You'd say why you were in there, and just hear other things. Sometimes it was funny, sometimes it was deep, sometimes it was stressful. I had a meeting with my solicitor over video link first, finishing 2 minutes before court was due. So we just talked about what to expect in court and just updates and things just before court started at the Old Bailey. Court was scheduled for 15 minutes in total, but we waited maybe double that for the women in Bronzeworth to actually link with the Old Bailey. So this whole time for half an hour I was just video link with the Old Bailey. just watching all the white wig wearing representatives in the courtroom, hearing bits and pieces of what they were muttering while I was waiting. I was trying to listen to everything what they were saying. It was quiet because the mics weren't turned up, but I was trying to get the goss. Eventually, the women in Bondsworth joined. After their technical difficulties, they joined the court for case management. Nobody applied for bail during this court session for various reasons, and after court and a wait, the same group that came out with this is out of the wing. We all went back together because how it works in prison is like if you're going to different parts of the building, you've got to wait for obviously the screws to get permission to move people. It's just called movement, and then you all just move through the different sections, but they've got a radio in for permission, so yeah, sometimes you can wait a while. So we just went back to resettle back on our own prison wings. But I was actually very happy that obviously we were going back to our prison wing and not early in the morning going to the Old Bailey, where we would actually end up in Belmarsh, because that's just the prison that's closest to the Old Bailey and is within its capture area or something. I can't remember what the term is. But anyway, I was very happy going back to even the IDTS wing that had caused me so much stress and frustration because the inmates in there. I was actually happy at this point to go back there. Obviously, Belmarsh is literally Azkaban from Harry Potter. It's where the Dementors came from. It's got like the worst criminals in society there. And it's meant to be the most uncomfortable. So I was very happy that we weren't going to move prisons, and I continued to have my own pad with a shower in it. And see, I was locked back in it with my dinner on the side. This is a barely baked, barely defrosted baguette with a pot of peri-peri chicken with sliced cucumber and onion in it. It was peng. You had another 8 out of 10 meal. I'm not even lying. I got shitty small cookies and a small pack. Always in a small pack. It was literally 5 tiny little cookies in a small pack. And then rather than unpack everything from my clear bin bag, which I'd packed in the morning thinking that I was going to get moved prisons and I had to take everything with me, sure that I was going to move, I just went to sleep instead due to the pain in my head from this toothache turned headache. I woke a couple of hours later to noise. A screw came in my pad to check everything works. So they just had this form basically. It was does this work? Does your telly work? Does your plug work? But the phone line and Ethernet cable is literally hanging out of the wall. So even if I had a phone at this point to phone people, it wouldn't work because the phone line's hanging out. So they reported that for the second time in a week, actually. And an hour later was exercise. Oh man, this is so rough. I have a cold. I have a constant heavy breeze coming into my pad because one window hatch does not close. So now I have constant sniffles, cold hands, and sneeze. This was the beginning of what would be a terrible, terrible man flu for many, many days. It was freezing. This breeze, I couldn't stop it from coming into my cell, and the heating just wasn't sufficient enough to heat the pad. Man, I was sick. I said, if I get man flu, I'll be in a state of torture and likely will be unable to write this diary. Perhaps this cold is why I have a headache now. I did actually stop writing and tried to catch up with this day here. So notable events yesterday is I went on CMS in Rastaman's pad, obviously because there was no CMS worker at this point. It was literally just whoever has got a CMS system in the pad. Rastaman charged people a cap to use CMS. It was absolutely scandalous. So I said, of course, it cost me a pack of Ritz crackers and a cap. After queuing up behind three other of his customers, I eventually got into their pad. They gave me a valid lecture on corruption in this prison. They were always giving lectures, Rastaman, and he was always pissed off and always trying to clue people up to things. The corruption lecture was one that I vibed with. Of course, the irony of corruption was lost on him because I had to pay to use what everybody should have access to, and he demanded payment for, which was the CMS system. So he was like, he himself was participating in this corruption. Another example that he said was that prisons breed criminality. In fact, this is me saying, and this is another example that prisons breed criminality and exploitation. I miss praying with three of the brothers while I queued up to use Rastaman CMS, fearing that I was going to miss my chance to use the system. Despite this, I was confronted by the neo-Nazi on the wing from the other day, who basically told us to stop praying on the wing. This person literally had beady black eyes and a conscious look of confusion or fear of anything different to what they're familiar with all the time. They look like either confused or just scared or something. I won't say exactly what was said, but they were asking questions about faith and my background, family, and effectively calling me a hypocrite. This was because it was like, oh, so you're religious, but you're in prison kind of thing. This is somebody who would tell us that they're Roman Catholic and they're proud of it and that. And it's like, well, yeah, well done. The Crusades ended a fucking long time ago, mate. So I tried to answer their questions sincerely, but at the same time, the questions and suggestions were just dumb as fuck. So I made sure that they understood that sentiment in my replies and that I'm not interested in them. So I was answering the questions politely, but at the same time, I was answering them as if they're fucking stupid as fuck, basically. And if they want to have a go, I'll have a go, kind of thing. So they walked off defeated by their own questions and foolishness, looking even more confused with themselves. I don't think much more happened after that day. For tea, I had rice, wedges, and I actually can't remember what else. I watched Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, then Voyager, and went to sleep. I was actually so sick that Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager was fucking on telly back to back. I was literally so sick. I did use prison adhesive to stick paper to my vents next to my window to stop the draft. Prison adhesive is toothpaste. That's just prison glue. But either way, but they've blew down. Oh yeah, so the paper that I stuck up just blew down from the storm. Oh yeah, there was a storm at the time as well. And I didn't have toothpaste to spare for construction until Monday, and it's Saturday today. That is the end of day 14, my second week in HMP Thameside prison.
Thank you for tuning in to Diary of a Political Prisoner. What was a short list for you was a period of time in prison for me. So please make sure that you subscribe on whatever podcast player you're listening on to be notified of future episodes. Each episode was recorded in a prison cell as I'm held on remand for allegedly being involved in a Palestine action to disrupt and destroy weapons in a genocidal Israeli arms factory under Section 5 of the Terrorism Act. My diary is a podcast only to give you something in the hope that you can give help and support to my mum and son, which I can't do by any other means from prison. In supporting them, for £5 a month, you can get a week's worth of episodes in advance every Monday. For £10 a month, you'll get the week's worth of episodes. Plus, I'll respond to any question you have in a monthly question and answer episode on my Patreon at patreon.com/politicalprisonerpod. For £25 a month or humanitarian aid tier, you get all of the above while knowing my little boy is supported and happy. One-time donations can be made by emailing or messaging my producer on social media. Media/collaboration inquiries are on the same line, the senders and inbox. If you can't support me family in my absence, please follow the podcast on Instagram if you're going to be listening. Please follow on Twitter, all of our socials. Our handle is Diary Poll Prisoner. Please share them and this podcast with your friends. It's free to do and it helps this project grow. You can also send me a prisoner email or letters, drawings, anything like that. Links to everything mentioned can be found in the podcast description below. Thank you, love and solidarity.